Welcome to another episode of What's Working in E-commerce. I'm Egan, the owner of Caravan Digital. We're an agency for e-commerce businesses, and we help with Google ads and Facebook ads and Instagram ads and email marketing. We grow businesses that way. And today I'm excited to introduce you to Jane Barlow Christensen, is from Barlow Herbal, and she's going to tell us about what she's discovered works in her marketing. Jane, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Egan. I'm happy to be here.
Tell me a little bit about your business and your products and how you got into this.
Yeah, so I carry on the work of my dad. My dad started a company when I was 14, and he was a botanist and an herbalist. And so he had this brilliant line of medicinal herbals that he formulated, all from when I was a teenager and growing up. And 25 years he ran his company, and then he passed away about 24 years ago. And his company kind of died with him because he was the brilliant mad scientist, if you will. And he was the one with the PhD and all the knowledge on herbal medicine. And 4 years after he passed away, I restarted his company because my main reason is we, as his siblings, I'm one of 14 kids, we needed these remedies to use in our own families with our kids. And so it was like, okay, well, I was actually really unhappy in corporate America, and my kids were grown. And I just thought, I want to be happy. And I really feel like I need to, start making my dad's formulas so that I can make them available for all my siblings. So the whole thing started out as I wanted to be happy. I was sick of corporate America. I wanted to carry on my dad's legacy and make the formulas available for myself and my close family. And there were also quite a few of my dad's previous customers that were kind of clamoring, please start making these again so that we can have them in our practices, because he mostly sold to doctors. So my goal was not to have a great big company. My goal was to have happiness and maybe just make enough to supplement the income that my husband had. And, I left a really lucrative corporate job. I was making six figures every year, but I was not happy. And you start to really realize life is way too short just to dig in and not do something that's your passion. So I've been going for now almost 20 years. And it started out as this lovely little pet project that I wanted to be happy. And now it's this thriving multi-million-dollar company that I'm still happy, and I'm even happier than I was. And I've just kind of done all my own marketing the whole time.
That's so awesome to hear about your success and you taking on your dad's legacy too. I love that. I think
Yeah.
For some viewers, they're going to latch on to, you have 14 siblings. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm one of 14. So I'm second oldest, and there's 11 natural kids. There's no steps, no halves. They're our same parents. And then my parents adopted 3 kids. So there's 14 of us total, but yeah, 14.
That's amazing. Yeah. So you guys out there in Utah, and I grew up in Idaho, and we were kind of connecting about that too. So, but I think you set the record. I think you come from the biggest family I've ever heard of. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And I actually grew up in Idaho, and then I moved to Salt Lake, and we're all scattered around the West, but yeah, it's a big family, and it does set a record for what a lot of people hear for sure.
You've been doing this for a while. I want to ask you about your marketing. When we were talking earlier, you kind of said, because we're in this, what would you say, natural, herbal supplement sort of space, we can't use the traditional channels with Google and Facebook advertising. And so we've had to get creative with our marketing. Is that right? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's really been interesting because, I love technology, which I think has been a really big plus for me because it makes sense to me. I love the way, I love connecting. I love social media. I think we can abuse those things as modern humans. There's an addiction level, but I also think if we know how to manage it, it can really connect people and it can spread the word about what we do as humans. But as I started to put my stuff up on, say Facebook, probably started about 5 years ago, I would just put up a picture of a product and I would just say what herbs were in it. I wouldn't even say what it did, but then I would get a notification from Facebook that said I was violating their community guidelines. And I'd be like, okay, I haven't made any claims. So it's been a very, very interesting journey to try to grow my business because I really can't share what I do. And I in a way, I think there's kind of a balance because it does need to be some type of regulation where people can't just say everything they want and make any claims they want because people are gullible. and people will believe almost everything you say. So there needs to be some type of regulation, but it's almost like my hands are really pretty tied. So about 6 years ago, I started a little YouTube channel, completely awkward at first, and they always say, it's always awkward, and the only way you're going to get better is if you do it. So I just started, kind of sharing healthy tips, because before I did this, I used to own my own health club. So I have some entrepreneurial, my dad was an entrepreneur. A lot of my siblings, we have these kind of deep entrepreneurial things that we love. And so I had my own business in the health club. I was a personal trainer. I was super into nutrition. I'd followed all the diets and all the everything. And so I just started posting healthy habits. The older that I've gotten, the more weight that seems to hold. And so basically, I'm just sharing healthy things, because I'll be 60 in a couple of weeks. And it's like, it gives me more weight if I can say, look, this is what I've done. And then I just kind of incorporate things like, okay, cayenne pepper is really good to add to your morning drink because it's really good for your heart. And so I started just kind of saying these things and building a following by sharing my healthy tips. So I think that's probably one of the things. It comes from a very genuine place, but also a life experience for me. And I think people think they have to be like other people and copy. You can take ideas, but your authentic self and what you bring is, I don't think people realize the power of that. And then just get going. Start a podcast, start a YouTube channel. You'll find your niche. And my YouTube channel still isn't that big. I've got almost 4,000 subscribers, which is not very big. But the thing is, I started, and what I've found is people have found me and put me on their podcasts, like health and wellness podcasts. And that's how my list has grown. And I've just grown very organically.
Yeah, that's great. I can tell you're really passionate about health and wellness and fitness and everything. And I think you got some dumbbells there in the background. Is that right?
Oh yeah, if you were to look over here, this is a big office space. And this is my workout room too. So yeah.
What have you learned in doing the YouTube marketing, and what would you recommend to other people who are just getting started with that?
My biggest thing is, if you have an idea, like in your business, and your brain is always coming up with ideas. And I always keep a notebook handy, just a little notebook that I can jot down ideas. Because if you don't not only jot it down and then act on it, it will leave you. And then that idea will go be gifted to someone else. So if I have an idea, like there's a little book called The 4 Agreements, which I read many, many years ago. And every once in a while in my life, one of these agreements would have a big resonation with me, like don't take anything personal. So I would write that down, like I should make a video about the 4 agreements and how there was a personal example in my life. So I would suggest that no matter really what you're in, what business you're in, and if you can find a way to relate it to your business and to your audience, don't let an idea slip by without writing it down. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes we make. We have this light bulb moment. And I even keep my notebook, I take it and put it on my bedside table. So it's always with me. So if I can't shut my brain off at night, my brain is thinking of ideas, and it doesn't happen every single night, but it happens pretty regular. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll get up and I'll write it down. And some of these ideas are some of the very best things. So I, make a little video about don't take anything personally, because here's what happened in my life, and here's how it helps your health. So, I think that's probably one of the biggest tips is don't be afraid to be yourself. No idea is too small. And honestly, if you are gifted with this idea and you don't act upon it, this is why I'm saying this again, this idea is gifted to someone else. Because think about, have you seen someone else do something and you're like, oh, well, I thought about that like a year ago, and I was thinking, well, you didn't act upon it, so someone else did. So I think that's one of my biggest tips for anybody that wants to grow their audience, no matter what you're doing.
I love that. And just as an aside to it, just a tangent, I'm curious about it. Do other people you meet have as many ideas as you do, or do you think you have a lot of ideas?
I think everybody has the same ideas, and I've been really strategic about who I surround myself with. Here is one thing I really did too. I joined a mastermind about 6 years ago. It was a marketing mastermind. And I feel like when you surround yourself with people who are entrepreneurs, who want to market their businesses, and they want to do it ethically. And, so I've got a group of friends here in Salt Lake City that I connect with, and all we do is we share ideas. And to me, the people that you surround yourself with and that can not make fun of your ideas, but can actually help stoke the fire of your ideas, you're going to be much better off. But yes, I think every single human has ideas. And I think what happens is we numb ourselves by scrolling social media for hours. We watch too much TV, we drink too much alcohol at the end of the night, or we eat food that just kind of numbs us. And so we're not making ourselves a channel for these ideas to come forth and then to give birth to them. So we have to be really aware of the habits that we do during the day that are going to numb ourselves to receiving these ideas. Every human has the gift of these ideas. Absolutely.
That's great. I want to dig in a little more on the mastermind too. Do you recommend that for all entrepreneurs and business owners? And then I also want to know, what have you learned from or gotten out of yours?
Yeah, the mastermind I joined was it was based in another state, another city, and I would go there 2 or 3 times a year. And I did that for a couple of years, and then I joined another mastermind that was more health and wellness people. And but marketing also is marketing. But when I joined the mastermind with wellness people, and it was from not only in the United States, but it was kind of people from all over the world, would gather in person once a year, then you're connecting and you're sharing ideas about the latest technology, the latest CRM, the latest, whatever it is that's, the latest funnel and the landing pages and content creation and, these. And then what I've now done is there's a small group here in Salt Lake City, and we actually meet monthly. It's not something anybody pays for. Now, the other masterminds I've paid for. And I think that when we invest in ourselves, there's people that I've known that's like, I would never pay that much money to go, sit in a why would you do that? And it's like, well, you're not just getting the information, you're getting the collaboration, and you're getting the ideas. Like, humans are meant to be together. That's the thing. We're social animals. And when you get in a room full of people who are interested in marketing their businesses, it's magic. So there's a small group that's been created here where I live, and it's absolutely brilliant. And so if you're a person who maybe thinks, I would love that, well, I would be the catalyst. Like, start a group in your, but be strategic. Gather these people, maybe gather one person, and then the two of you meet, and then add one more person. But make sure that every person adds to the whole. Like, you don't want to just have a group of 20, 25 people and everyone's just waiting for someone to give them ideas. Like, everyone needs to bring collaboration to the table. So it can be very selective, because I've belonged to groups that's like, okay, I'm not getting anything out of this. And then I've left.
I love how you say it though. You're not just getting information, you're getting collaboration. I got to write that one down, because that's really good for me to hear. That's great.
Yeah.
Tell me about the podcast. It sounds like people were inviting you on their podcast. Were you seeking out podcasts? How do you think about podcasting or being a podcast guest as a marketing channel?
Oh, it's huge, huge. In fact, where that really kind of came to fruition for me was when I joined the mastermind of the health and wellness people. Most of them were authors. They're people who've been on, like, Dr. Oz and the doctors, and people who they're kind of out there with their books, and they're, people who a lot of people would recognize. And so when I went to this mastermind, and there was a criteria to join this mastermind, you couldn't just say, oh, that sounds great, I want to join it. It was a curated group. And so I met so many people there that had podcasts. And then, I did my first podcast probably 6 years ago. I was a guest. And that has honestly probably been the biggest thing that catapulted me out to a lot more people who found me. And since then, I've been asked to be in several documentaries, which is amazing. So I can share, and I'm not trying to sell anybody anything. My goal is to provide value. If you ask me to be on your podcast, my goal is not to sell you anything. My goal is to say, if I can spend some time and inspire you and provide value, I don't care if you buy anything from me or not. When you go in to any type of a situation where you are asked to be a guest, to me, that's my biggest bit of advice, because if you provide value, people are going to automatically go, oh, I would love to hear more, because that just inspired me to hydrate more or take better care of my health or exercise more, whatever it is that you're providing value, because that should be the number one goal. But yes, podcasts, huge. We're just getting ready to start our own podcast. And me and my son, who both my sons work with me, and they're in their late 30s. And so we're starting a podcast. In our research, there's like 1 million podcasts. There's a lot. So here's where people can get overwhelmed, where they think, well, what does it matter? There's so many podcasts out there. Mine is not, no one's going to find me, and don't even think that way. Like, to me, there's no competition because there's only one you. No one can do what I do. No one can do what you do. You're Egan. Nobody else can be Egan but you. So I think that if you really want to start a podcast, then just start a podcast, do some research, figure out your niche, pay attention to what you want to call it, and strategically think of your name, of what you want it, because that can draw people in with that, and then start it. Just start it. And I think, yeah, podcasts and getting yourself out there is the way to do it.
That's great advice. Thank you, Jane. A couple of things that really stuck out to me there. You're really saying value first. You're kind of delivering content, help people. And then even if it's a crowded space, which I think you'd agree yours is, I feel like mine is too, but it's like you're bringing your own take to it. You've got your own personality and your own life experience, and you're applying it to that space. Is that how you think about that?
Absolutely. 100%.
I think you mentioned online courses as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, this was something I started learning about in these marketing groups that I belong to. And